years ago, I suffered a really big financial loss, and while I was figuring out how to recover from this, I said, well, I need to do something to not only occupy my time, but something that would allow me to earn money over a longer period of time, kind of to substitute for the retirement fund that had been depleted by the loss. So I started a book based on almost a dream, a sort of a waking dream I had one night, which actually, the scene of which actually happens in the second volume of the Shangri-La Artifacts. And built out around that. And over a period of years, it took me a decade to write the 3 volumes of the Shangri-La Artifacts. By the way, you're going to want to say Shangri-La, and yes, it's a reference to Shangri-La historically, but it's specifically pronounced Shangri-La for a reason. It has to do with the characters in the book, and the implication is that we have mispronounced the historical name of a real place. The first volume, The Promise of Paradise, is called the first scroll, or scroll 1, and that's because in the first volume, someone steals from this archaeological site from a sealed area 3 scrolls that he doesn't know the value of, but he's going to take it into Cairo to see if he can sell it. Long story short, they fall into the hands of a Professor Lichtenstein who is on sabbatical in Cairo. He's a ancient studies professor. He thinks they're phonies. But when he takes them home, he discovers that, in collaboration with a couple of colleagues from other universities, he discovers that they may be actually correct. But he's afraid to publish them because if he's wrong, he looks like an idiot. And he asks a friend of his, a graduate of his, undergraduate colleague of his, who is teaching martial arts in a nearby town, if he would try to convert these to a novel in order to get public attention involved. And he was hoping that if public attention goes around the novel, then they would ask him about it, and thus he would have some cover in case it turned out not to be legitimate. Well, it turns out that the 3 scrolls are the 3 books that we have here. And there are actually 2 parallel stories happening. The story in the scroll covers a 500-year period. That is the main story of the texts. The side story is the story of the martial arts artist who wants to be a novelist, trying to convert these to a novel. His name is Tony Nakamichi. And Professor Lichtenstein, who wants fame more than anything else, yet doesn't want to risk his reputation on these scrolls. So we start off with The Promise of Paradise, then it moves to the Ascent from the Lower Plains, and finally The Sacrifice of Shangri-La. Now, I thought to myself, I thought, how do you make this exciting? What would you like to read? And I answered myself I answered, this sounds very much like Indiana Jones, but it also sounds like Lost Horizons. Later on, it's also going to sound, believe it or not, like Flash Gordon. So it's like in an elevator, Lost Horizons meets Indiana Jones meets Flash Gordon. And it's crunched together and then spread out over 500 years with two stories being told. The stories that are allegedly in the scrolls themselves, which they have to determine, was it a history or was it basically a novel? And the story of Liechtenstein and Nakamichi, who find that somebody else is trying to get their hands on this and is threatening them. So there are parallel stories going on. I think you'll find them a fun read. They remind me of going back to the serials of yesteryear that would have been done in the 40s in the movies, but I used to watch on Saturday morning TVs, and they always excited me, and I always wanted the next episode to be there sooner than it was. Luckily, you get to go finish a chapter and start a new chapter, so the episode is right. The next episode is right there. Hope you enjoy them. The Shangri-La Artifact Trilogies. Thank you.